Welcome to Parev TV. We are joined by Arpi Shatigyan, an Armenian lawyer born, raised, and who lives in Israel, and she's connecting with us live from Tel Aviv, Jaffa. Arpi, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. Let me first say congratulations. You have a new prime minister in Israel. And basically what we're interested is your take. Maybe you can capsule the mood of the country during this very historic period and change.
First of all, thank you so much for having me once again on your show, Vartan. I'm always delighted to be speaking to you and to your audience in the U.S. My personal take on these phenomenal elections that took place in Israel literally 2 days ago is that a lot of people here were just yearning for this new blood to come in. You know, we were under a certain regime for 12 full years, and it was so clear that the Israeli society was so polarized by this regime. I mean, we had extremists on both ends, on the far right and the far left, and this is something that still exists and should be tackled by the incoming government. But definitely the overall feeling is that there is this new chance to revive the state, to basically put the state back on the tracks that it so needs to be on. Because there was this feeling that the government was stagnant. It was basically frozen in so much that there were these elections taking place every half year. And now that a new coalition government has been formed, there is some signs of hope. Many journalists and commentators are talking about counting the days till this government ends. But I personally believe because they are very targeted and focused on their duties, and the ministers which have been appointed for this government actually have credentials that suit their office, it's something that will keep them focused. I really wish them the best of luck. Yeah. Because this government has such a wide spectrum of various parties collaborating, and this basically shows the microcosm of the Israeli society.
You know, we are far away from Israel, but we do follow the news from Israel. It's something the international community is always hearing about, but today especially is the controversial, in fact, in the next half hour, I think, the controversial flag march through East Jerusalem. What can you tell us about developments in that respect?
Okay, so this decision was taken prior to this government being sworn in. So it was firstly canceled, and then they debated over the route that this march is going to take place. And following, consultations with various authorities, it's been decided that it should go forth. So yes, there is a feeling that this march should not take place, definitely. That's my personal feeling and opinion as well. But in order to, sort of show that Israel is a sovereign country and won't be dictated by Hamas and other terrorist organizations, I understand why they would take the decision and go ahead, but the route has been changed, yeah. So it plays, but with some concessions, obviously.
Well, when you speak about the route has been changed, many people don't understand to get into the walled city of Jerusalem, there are different gates, and I think the march is going to take place very close to the Armenian Patriarchate. How does the Armenian community react to that?
Right. So as I also in my previous interviews with you, Vartan, I always stress the fact that Armenians are neutral in this conflict between the Palestinians and Israelis. And yes, it so happens geographically that the Armenian Patriarchate Road leads to the Western Wall, which is the holiest place for Judaism. The Armenians will be bystanders. They will just watch it as it proceeds past the Armenian convent. I don't think they will definitely not actively support it. But they will also not actively make some sort of standing against it. Just let it proceed by the gates, and off they go down the road to the Western Wall.
RP, you have the new prime minister. For 12 years, we've been hearing the name Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi. Now you have Naftali Bennett. Tell me something about this guy.
Okay, so Naftali Bennett was a very good friend of Bibi. He also served as his chief of staff. So there was a very intertwined relationship between them. But as they say, there was some sort of bad blood that just happened to, on a personal level, between them. And they had a falling out. So Bennett started having these opinions about Benjamin Netanyahu, which didn't actually fit his agenda. I think also that he always had this lifelong dream to be prime minister, and he was offered also by Benjamin Netanyahu when he was trying to form his coalition government a few weeks ago to be first in line and be prime minister. But he refused and went ahead and signed with Yair Lapid, which is the alternate prime minister after Naftali Bennett finishes his 2-year term. So he's a former commando. So he's an army guy. He's very pragmatic. He comes from the high-tech industry. So he's a self-made millionaire. His parents immigrated from the U.S. And settled in Israel, and then returned back to the U.S. on various delegations. So Bennett is someone who is very much involved in the U.S. and Israel relationships. He's also has this army background, which also gives him some credit points, because throughout history, the various prime ministers in Israel have had some sort of military background. So he ticks those boxes indeed.
But also in terms of Armenia, vis-a-vis Armenia or Armenian community, does this change mean anything?
I don't think so. I mean, the Armenian community, as I said, they always keep neutral. They keep themselves to themselves. One thing that I do want to point out is that the alternate prime minister, Yair Lapid, has voiced his opinion about recognizing the Armenian genocide. In 2018, he met with the first Armenian ambassador to Tel Aviv, Armen Sampadyan, and he tweeted it on his Twitter account that it was high time that the state of Israel recognized the Armenian genocide, and he even put forward a bill in the Israeli parliament, in the Knesset. It didn't go through, but his efforts were considerable in this aspect. So that's Yair Lapid. Bennett himself has not voiced any sort of opinion regarding the Armenian genocide. And the Armenian community, they have been through so much, through different regimes throughout history. So having a new prime minister doesn't really influence them so much, as long as obviously the government will continue to respect the Armenian community and its holy sites.
RP, You are so passionate, so informative, so interesting to listen to, and you do follow world politics. I'm sure you also follow the politics in Armenia, and you do know in just a few days there is election, and we will hopefully have a Pashinyan or Kocharian, whoever may be, as a new government. What is your reaction, and can you draw any parallels between what is happening in Israel and the election in Armenia?
One similarity between the systems, I mean, the political systems, is that also in Israel, you have so many different parties as well. It's not like a place in the US or the UK where you have two solid, parties to give your vote to. So here you have so many parties that take away the votes of other major parties. And that's a problem when you want to come and make a coalition government. You have such a very diverse opinion, you have such diverse opinions because you have all these parties, and it will be difficult to, bring them all together. Just like the Israeli government at the moment is such a wafer-thin government. It's like for one vote, the whole government can collapse. And this is something that I see a similarity in this sense with the Armenian political system. And another thing is that they are working at the moment, the Israeli government, and this is a bipartisan bill, to limit the term of the prime minister. And thing that I see also Armenians are interested in, to limit the term. And if you have been already a prime minister formerly, you cannot run for office again. This is something which we see now in Armenia taking place. So these are some similarities.
One other thing which really drew my attention is that once the confidence vote was announced in the Knesset, Benjamin Netanyahu went and sat back in the prime minister's chair in the Knesset chamber, and then he was told, no, this is not your seat anymore. You're in the opposition. Did you see that whole thing on TV?
Yes, and some people ridiculed this, and obviously jokes were flying left and right. But I think it's a matter of habit, when you have been a prime minister for so long, so you're holding on. Yeah. But yes, obviously it was pointed out and jeered at.
RP, I hope to see you very soon, and I assure you the coffee is on me. Հայրենով գուզեմ մի խոսքմանես, որ հասկանա ժողովուրդը թե հայախոս եւ ասկասերես եւ նվիրված ես, եւ որքան հբարդ են քեզ մով եւ քաղուտի այլ անդամներով հայրենով։
Միան մեկ բառ, որ հայերը աշխարհի հայերը թող քան Երուսաղեմ, թող քան Яфա, Հայֆա այցելեն մեր բզդիգ եւ շատ կարեւոր քաղուտը, որ դարիներ մենք ունենք եւ պիտի շարունակենք հոն ըլլալ եւ մենք շատ գուզենք, որ հայերը քան եւ դեսնան մեր գալվածները, մեր սրբավայրները, շատ կարևոր է, որտեղ թե մեզի մեր մորալը կբարձրացնի եւ հայերը դառնան սկալ, որ իրենք դեղ ունին ամենասրբավայր դեղերը, ոչ միայն Երուսաղեմի մեջ։
RP, շատ շնորհակալ ենք, բարի օր եւ նորեն կսեմ։
Շատ շնորհակալ,
bye bye։